Good day, five-star team. This is Coach Everts. This is a tutorial on how to present our great opportunity. Remember, I was saying that it is important to meet people at their point of understanding. Most folks do not understand World Global Network, or WGN, as I refer to it as abbreviation WGN. They don't understand what that is yet. Even though WGN, World Global Network, is a major technology company who's doing business around the world in some of the biggest markets in the world. And right now, it has done more business in its first 3 years than Microsoft, Apple, or Samsung has done in their first 3 years. So it's a very significant thing. The only difference that World Global Network is doing is decided to do this through you and I, putting into our hands an opportunity. Now, we know without a doubt that these folks here are the Microsoft founders, right? Well, we buy their devices from them. We bought Windows, we buy, smartphones from people like these. But the point I'm trying to say is now we have an opportunity not only just to buy the devices, but to share in the success of the company like these Microsoft founders had the ability to do, okay? Their ability, getting in early with this guy right here, Mr. Bill Gates, and Mr. Paul Allen. And Mr. Paul Allen, the brains behind the outfit here, really developing things that he didn't even existed. Mr. Gates was out here promoting things that weren't even existed even on the drawing table. And so this man had to take up the slack for him. The point is, all these people have been retired for decades. Okay, they're older now, of course. And I remember being in Seattle and looking at Mr. Paul Allen's project in Seattle. There was 15 sky cranes in Seattle, right? They're building lots of skyscrapers and things in Seattle. And I looked over at him and I asked my niece Laura, I said, and my nephew Jason, I said, what's going on there? They go, well, that's Paul Allen Construction. Well, Paul Allen over here also owns the Seattle Seahawks and many other things, folks. These people have been retired for years, billionaires, or hundreds of millions in their pocket. Why? Because they understood what was needed in that market at that time, and they were fired up about it. And all they had was a big dream, and they were a bunch of kids, and they made the dream come to fruition. Well, that's happened many times in life, has it not? I mean, you can look back as far as when the light bulb was developed, or the telephone by Graham Bell, or whatever else. How about the first typewriter, the first TV? All these were significant technology times, and the people who actually saw it in the beginning or close to the beginning literally bought all their time back in life and have been retired doing whatever they want to do. Now, I don't know if that's important to you. I hope it is. We all start out in life at zero and we end up about 80 years old and then we expire in life. We're no longer around. And you can put your hands right out in front of you right now and palms facing each other and look at, that's your lifespan, about 3 feet apart, put them about 3 feet apart, and then bring it into where you're at now. And that'll be a reality check, folks, because we don't have forever to get done what we want to get done here in this life. If you have grandchildren and children, life out here is getting tougher and tougher. They don't know if their jobs are really secure till they're over and this and that. So we have a very important thing to do here as far as creating wealth for our own families, okay? But anyway, I want you to fully understand what these folks did, okay? They were people with a big dream, and they acted upon their big dream. They were no different than you. Do you really think this gentleman here is any better than you are? Or how about this guy over here? Or this guy over here? No, but they made the right decision. That's the difference. They made the right choice at that time, okay? And so I want to really emphasize this. Talk in terms of other people's point of understanding. They understand Microsoft and Samsung and Google, right? And Apple. Why? Because they use their technologies already. And it's no different with WGN. It's no different, folks. The only difference is we get to now share in the success of this major technology company, just like these folks here have done with Microsoft. And moving forward here, Some of you have seen this slide here before. Again, Carlos Slim Helu, I'm pronouncing that, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, 84.6 billion. Do you know, just in Mexico, folks, with mobile devices. You know, mobile devices are the largest technology market of all time. And he did it right, didn't he? How about Bill Gates, $81 billion, and Warren Buffett with Berkshire Hathaway, you know, the most successful investor of all time, and he's heavy in technology. And you can look at Mr. Ortega, Manico Ortega, over here, 64 billion, and then over here, Larry Ellison with, Oracle, folks. This is no secret. Success is no secret. It comes down to, really, do you believe it or not? It doesn't change anything, you understand? The opportunities will continue to pass all of us by unless we capture the moment when those opportunities present themselves. Mr. Galdi here, he developed the first touchscreen computer when he was 22 years old. Now he's going to introduce the first wearable PC. Okay, understand that. He is going to be up here, okay, up here. The question is, when he is up there, where will you be and the people that you know? Okay, again, it doesn't change the opportunity. Please understand that. Talk in terms, again, the entry point. Get people to anchor to Microsoft, Samsung, and Apple and ask them questions like, would you say that they've been very successful companies? And the answer is yes. Would you have liked to share in the success of those companies? I hope you're taking notes right now, or watch this again several times, okay? Would you have liked to share in the success of the company? Let me ask you this question as you're watching this. Would you have liked to share in the success of Apple computer? If you have a smartphone, all right, you already use the device. How about if you have an Android, you probably use Samsung, okay? Would you have liked to share in the success of that company? Apple or Samsung or Microsoft? And the answer should be absolutely. If not, turn this off and get rid of it and go about your life. But folks, let me tell you something here. That's what we have here. I want you to get that anchored into your mind, but I also want you to teach your people, your teams, what I'm doing here, passing on to you, passing the torch here on to you. And so help people, talk to people where they're at, okay, at their point of understanding. They understand these other big companies, then bring in WGN. Bring it in and show them how this is the same thing. And this is another point in opportunity in history. This is from Cisco, right down here this year, right? Actually 2012, and the prediction here, which is interesting, is up here even. They underpredicted, in other words, and this growth curve, as you've seen before, will continue to go up. And so this is in our face, folks. This is telling us this is what's going to happen with or without us, right? Again, these people, this whole situation happened without us, and this one's going to happen without us too, unless we grab a hold of this and run with it, okay? Which category best describes you? When I sit in front of somebody, and by the way, I'm going to do a presentation that's going to be really fast, to the point, and you can utilize, have people watch it a minute or two at the most. And after this, it'll be along with this video in the email I'm going to send out. This is just a tutorial here. But understand, we all fall into these phases. Phase 1, Phase 2, Phase 3, Phase 4, Phase 5. And you can see what they are. This is Rogers' bell curve. And this tells us where people are at, where wealth is created. You know, it's all about the choices and the decisions we make, isn't it? In life. It truly is. Life is our wealth. Where we're at in life has all been our choice, our decision for the most part. You know, sometimes we have bad health and so forth, but really we're right where we're at financially because we made the choice to be there. All right? Because opportunity has always been around, but not like it is now, folks. Look at this bell curve. How many of you who are watching this make 10 million a year from YouTube? How about Google? You make 10 million a year from Google, or a million a year even from Google. How about when the first TV came out? How much money are you making from that? Okay. How about Microsoft? How about that company? And back to the BlackBerry and the Android here and the iPhone and so forth. How much are you making? Well, wouldn't you agree that these have been very successful companies? And what you want to do when you present somebody and you have this out, if you're in person with them, laid down before them, is don't make it confusing. Just stay with Apple. Everybody understands Apple and they understand YouTube and stuff. You can talk about two or three of them. But the fact of the matter is, you need to find out what phase they're in, right? Are they a phase one person, a phase two, a phase three, a phase four, or phase five person? Because this determines everything, folks, whether you're going to be successful or not in life, right? Is by the decisions you make. I mean, if you've been over here in the past, a late majority or laggard, well, change your decision and be over here. It's that simple. One decision can change your financial future forever, and those are your family. You don't have to make the same mistake again, okay? So when you're sitting down with somebody, you want to ask questions. When you're asking questions, you're in control of the conversation because I got to answer your question, right? Don't be talking all the time. Ask them a question, listen for their answer, then ask them another question based on the answer they gave you. In other words, let me explain. If I'm sitting down with somebody, I'm going to say, do you know Rogers bell curve? And I says, this really determines everybody's success in anything that they do, business or investments or whatever. And wouldn't you agree that Apple, making the iPhone, became quite successful doing that, and the iPod up here? And then I'll wait for an answer. And they'll say, yeah. Do you think that Apple has made a lot of money? And by the way, on a side note here, Apple has been the most successful financially of any technology company. All right, they make most of the money, or they have been. And so please understand when you say that, if they say, "Oh well, I don't know," or I don't know," or "I don't think so," well, that's a lie. That's not the truth, folks. The truth is they are very successful and they're made a lot of money. Okay, same with Google. As we all know, Google has over $50 billion in extra cash right now. You understand? And Microsoft, we all know that. All right, so I want to find out how much money. The question I'll ask them is, how much money did you make when the iPhone was sold? Do you make any money from that every year? Do you know 150 million of those are sold every year? And I'll wait for an answer. Well, no, I don't. Well, YouTube, how much do you make from YouTube? How about Google or Microsoft? Well, I don't make any money from them. I might have a few stocks, but not really. I don't. Does any of these companies pay you anything? No. But do you use, question number two, do you use any of these devices? I see you have a smartphone here. Do you have a smartphone or a computer or a tablet? Of course. So without question then, right, they buy the stuff, right? So, and the last question I posed to them is this. Wouldn't you have liked not only to have purchased this smartphone or this tablet, but also to have shared in the success of Apple Computer or Microsoft or Samsung? And then I'll stop and I want an answer. They go, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, then I need to find out next is, and I'll have these on a document these questions as well in a document in the email, but then I want to find out where they see themselves. Are you a phase one, phase two, phase three, or phase four, phase five person? I just need to know that. This is, again, what are we doing here? This is not a sales job, folks. This is a reality check, okay? This is not a sales job. This is a business transaction. Because the people you're hiring, so to speak, to enter into your company here, this multi-million-dollar company within WGN, which is yours, you're going to hire the right people. So what are we looking for? We're looking for phase one and phase two people right now. Maybe phase three, but mainly phase one and phase two. As you can see, WGN right here. And so I need to find out where they're at before I tell them about WGN, okay, and what's going on here with the wearable computer and everything, all right? So what kind of decisions did they make in the past? When did they buy their iPhone or their tablet or their Android? When did they buy that? Were they wait over here till everybody else had one, or they're just now getting one, right? Or were they kind of an early majority right in here, or definitely an early adopter when the first iPhone came out? You know, they had to have it. So we need to find out. Let them choose. Ask them, and then be quiet and let them choose. And said, if you had a chance to go back in time, next question, would you have made a different decision if the company, like Apple, would have allowed you to share in the success of that company? Right? Well, of course they're going to say yes. I mean, anybody with any brains is going to say yes, right? And so say, well, you might have been a phase 4 before, wherever they say, but I'd like to invite you to make a different decision this time and move down to phase 1 or phase 2. Are you willing to do that? Okay. Remember, this is not a sales job here, folks. This is a business transaction, clear and simple. We're talking, I mean, I hope your mindset is you want to make $1 million at this, right? Or more. Well, follow along with me here then. And so, because what we're going to be doing, especially right now, till December 9th, I mean, we're looking for phase 1 and phase 2 people. And if they don't pick that or not willing to commit to that, move on. And as we go through time here, next year and the year after and the year after and so forth, and they become an early majority or late majority, get back with them. They will remember this day. I guarantee you they'll remember this because you'll bring it back to their memory at that point. So you will get back with them. So you put them on your sidebar note in your spiral notebook or wherever you keep your contacts. And then as we move through this time, you will contact them every once in a while and update them and get their permission to update them. It's okay if I update you and let you know the progress. Folks, we got a lot of times in life, we got to get out of our own way when it comes to success. Just get out of our own way. Quit thinking we know it all. Quit thinking we got all the answers. Quit trying to be a doctor and diagnose something and and then give a prescription for it, because most of us are not qualified to do that. You know, as a financial advisor, you're qualified at what you're qualified at. I am too as a financial advisor, over the years, and a business owner of a business of one kind for the last 50 years, right? Like I say, the last company, 33, almost 35 years, got rid of that one. Once you get their phase, and you get that part down, then you go over here and you tie in WGN, wearable tech, and everything we're going. Don't overwhelm them. Don't just pour a bucket of water on them. Spend some time and say, the first wearable computer is out or is going to be out here really soon. That's just like bringing out the first iPhone, except it's in a market that's growing 5 times faster than the smartphone or the mobile market, which means the market's 5 times bigger, folks. Pretty simple, right? And so now you have a chance. I'm glad that you made this decision to be a phase 1 and phase 2 person, right? Maybe if they're a phase 3 like that. Now you have a chance to not only use this technology and have a wow moment when you put on the glasses, etc. You have a chance to share in the success of this company. Think about that. There's going to be people watching this that really get what I'm saying here. If you don't, watch it again. It is your life, okay? You can do with it whatever you want. I'm reaching out right now to the phase 1 and phase 2 people. You might be in this, and you might say, well, I've always been a phase 3 or 4 person. Well, make a different decision. How do you do that? You need to go out and share this with people right now and find out if they're a phase 1 or phase 2 person. Our job right now is to sponsor people, get these people. Affiliates are customers, folks. Understand that. Affiliates are customers. Customers are not affiliates yet, okay? Customers just buy the product. They don't share in the success of the company. Affiliates are the only ones that share in the success of the company, okay? Unless you go out and buy some of their stock. But then you got to take money out of your pocket, more money out of your pocket to do that, okay? So please tie this in. After you get a yes, 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 and all this other, okay? Put yourself to it. But I'm going to sit down and do this today even, and I'm taking this with me. I might take support material like this with me, but I'm going to zero down on this and I'm going to draw on it with my pencil. I'm going to circle this. I'm going to circle, circle, circle. And I'm going to ask them these questions that I just mentioned here. So go back and listen to this and write down those questions, because this is hugely important to your financial future. All right? Print this off. This it's going to be in the email I send you. Print it off. Use this as your worksheet when you're talking to people. If they don't get this, they're not going to get anything else you say. Understand? And it's up to you to convey to them, get them anchored into this first, and have them agree with these have been very successful companies. Okay? And wouldn't they have liked to share it if there would have been an opportunity to share in the profits of those companies? Okay? Then you introduce how vast this market is. You know, you got to have you got to have a big market, folks. If you're going to open up a business, you can't put it out in the middle of nowhere and expect it to be successful. We got a huge market. Like I said, the biggest of all time in technology. Use this again as your worksheet. And remember, this is not a sales job, folks. This is a business transaction. It's serious. It's our lives. It's your financial future. And you have a chance here to buy back all the time that's left in your life, if you so choose to do whatever you want. All right? That's it for the tutorial. I will be doing the presentation next and have both of these videos in this email. Thank you for your time. Go for it. Look for the phase 1, phase 2 people. If they're not, keep them in your book. Move on, folks. But you need to bring people in. You got to sponsor people. You need customers in your business. Remember, affiliates are customers too. Thank you.